What kind of strategies can people use to help improve their endogenous stem cell production?
Well, fasting, if we start with those that are sort of natural, or I shouldn't say natural, but lifestyle, fasting is one of the very, very important one. We all know, I mean, you know very well,
Mhm.
fasting has been documented for centuries for its ability to trigger regeneration of all kinds and healings of all kinds in the body. There are tons of documentation as to what it does in the body, autophagy and different things. But why would it actually help the body regenerate, recover? It was kind of a blank box for a long time until fairly recently, a few years ago, it was documented that fasting for 3 days and more indeed increases for quite some times, for a week or two, the number of stem cells in circulation. So you're giving your body a real dose of repair when you fast. Aside from this one, the only other thing that we can do to put more stem cells in circulation is intense physical activity. But it's probably for the simple reason that super, super intense physical activity will create micro lesions, micro injuries that will trigger the repair process on their own. So they call for repair. So the stem cells are then consuming the repair. So it's still limited in actual its effect on overall body regeneration. So where my work has been for the past 20 years or so is to study and identify plants that act by triggering the release of stem cells from the bone marrow. So I've studied a number of plants, and right now we have about a handful that you simply consume these plants orally, and it triggered the release of your own stem cells. So that's the path that I've been engaged in terms of R&D and clinical trials for quite some time.
Yeah, and I want to come back to those plants. Now, with fasting, you mentioned 3 days. What does the research say about intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding? Let's say somebody's doing like a 16-hour fast every day, or maybe like a 24-hour fast once a week. Is there any literature on stem cell production with those shorter
Not
fasts?
that I know. Not
Yeah.
that I know of in terms of literature, which is not to say that there's no effect. You need to
Yeah.
understand that quantifying stem cells is not an easy task because we quantify a very, very small population of cells in the body. When you're talking about 0.05% of you, or 0.1% of your white blood cell population, that's a really small number of
Mhm.
cells to quantify reliably and be able to do statistical analysis with a person when he's fasting or not fasting. So these are not simple studies to do. So you could have an increase that is just missed and is seen as not
Mhm.
significant. Could it be that it does trigger stem cell release? I think everything is a gradient. I would not be surprised that it does. But a 16-hour fast has still not in the body triggered the reactions of, I would say, not injury, but like significant stress.
Yeah.
So I would assume that if there is such a release with intermittent fasting, it's minimal and probably
Mhm.
not the reason why intermittent fasting brings all of its benefits.
Now let's go back to those plants. So you've been looking at which of these plants stimulate endogenous stem cell, and you actually coined this term, endogenous stem cell mobilization. So let's talk about that term and then also some of the plants you're looking at.
Well, endogenous stem cell mobilization, of course, it's kind of a technical term. But the reason why I coined that term is because right now in the entire world of stem cell, if I say stem cell for just about anybody, it means it's a treatment. You
Right.
go somewhere and you get an injection, and the question is, which kind of stem cells? Where are they injected? Are we doing something to them? Never is considered the fact that your own stem cells in your body. So when they're extracted, they come from the bone marrow, from the blood or fat tissue, meaning they're already there.
Mhm.
They're not better because you take them out and put them back in. So the question is, what are they doing in the body? And when we realize that there are means of releasing stem cells, then the big comparison, and I'm summarizing here to a quite significant extent, but nevertheless, it remains a fact that when you do an injection, you increase the number of stem cells in circulation through an injection, but you can also increase the number of stem cells by releasing your own, which is already now a well documented phenomenon. So the idea was to really develop an approach that could be compared to what is normally done in the medical field with stem cell injection, which is endogenous stem cell mobilization, meaning the release of your own stem cells. And I started into this field in 1995. I was hired by a company at the time that was selling blue-green algae from Klamath Lake. You may have heard of that product. So most of the research that has been done,
right?
Sorry?
Spirulina? Was that a spirulina
No,
product?
it's not spirulina. Spirulina is spirulina. In Klamath Lake, the species is Aphanizomenon aqua, also known as AFA. So it's a different, it's the same broad class. It's a blue-green algae, but it's a different species. They're both very good, but the effect on stem cells, we have not seen it with spirulina. There are a few very small differences, but they're notable in the sense that when I started that research on that blue-green algae from Klamath Lake in southern Oregon, the main benefits were effect on the immune system, effect on inflammation, and on the mind. And that effect is specific to AFA. It makes a compound called phenylethylamine, very well known in biochemistry as the molecule of love or the molecule of joy. Anytime you feel content, satisfied, your financial problems will come back tomorrow, but today, for some reason, they're not a problem. Well, your brain is making PEA.
Chocolate has PEAs, right?
Chocolate has PEA.
Molecule. Yeah.
Correct. AFA has way more.
Yeah.
So to put it in perspective, so it was a common benefit that people were reported. So anyway, we started the research to identify active compound mechanism of action. As I'm doing this work, I came across people who reversed multiple sclerosis, insulin-dependent diabetes, liver failure, severe emphysema, Parkinson, all kinds of problems, and the extent of the benefits were at times quite significant. So, these are just stories. Scientifically, they have no value. But when you've got 100 of those, and then you start to get some of the medical file, and you can clearly see in the medical file something really changed in someone's life after years of evolution of a problem, and suddenly it starts to improve, somewhere it warrants looking at it a little bit deeper. So there's a point where it became very, very compelling, and I started to really want to look into this. And so we did a number of studies, and to make the story short, it's in 2001 when I came across what was, to my knowledge, the first paper documenting this. The title was Turning Blood into Brain. It was the first study documenting stem cells going from the bone marrow to the brain and becoming a neuron. Now, my original field of training is brain research, neurophysiology. We were all told the brain does not regenerate. And we were all told in med school that stem cells are only precursors to blood cells. They don't make anything else. So that paper was extremely compelling to me. So I went to see if I can find anything else in the scientific literature. I found one other study documenting stem cells being able to become liver cells, and another one documenting that they could become heart cells. So you take a step back. So we're in 2001. You just look at just the general concept of human physiology. If a stem cell can become liver, heart, and brain, what mechanism could it be that it's just these three? It can't. If they can become those three, that means they can also become pancreas, lung, skin, and the rest. It's just a matter of time that scientists will document them. So if we accept that stem cells can become all these cells, they cannot do this without being the repair system of the body. They have to be the repair system. So we published this hypothesis in a journal called Medical Hypotheses, that stem cells were the repair system of the body. In the back of my mind, the thought was, what if that plant triggered the release of stem cells from the bone marrow? If they are the repair system, they will go into the pancreas of the diabetic, the heart of the heart disease patients, the lung of the emphysema, and so on. So you should expect that plant to give, through people's experience, a broad variety of benefits. And that's what we had. So it became really my first solid, though far-fetched at the time, and I faced it was called ludicrous many times in the first years, but from a purely scientific and intellectual way, it was my only solid hypothesis. It just made sense. So we bought a flow cytometer, we started to count stem cells in our own blood, took the product. Very quickly we saw that that's what this product was doing, putting more stem cells in circulation. Once we documented the effect of AFA, We had to show the mechanism of action, the active compound, proof of concept, finding the patents. When all of this was done, then in my mind, all along, I was kind of eager to go back and test other plants, because if stem cells are the repair system of the body, it cannot be that there's only one plant having an effect on stem cells. So the first question that comes to mind is, what else has been associated with a broad variety of health benefits? So immediately you think adaptogens. Yeah. Products that are known to be associated with many benefits, but we don't have a clear explanation. We always talk about the fact that they support the immune system, but the immune system means you would not get a cold in the winter. That's it. It doesn't mean you would recover from all these other conditions. So it was an explanation that was not one. So we studied medicinal mushroom, goji berry, seaweeds, many of these plants, ginseng, they all have an effect on stem cells. But the real heroes, the real star product is when I had opportunities to go in remote areas of the world. Like you go on the Tibetan plateau, you go to Madagascar, in the Congos, Papua New Guinea, South America. What are they doing locally where they don't have Chinese medicinal, mushrooms? They don't have goji berry. What do they have locally? And we found sea buckthorn berry from the Tibetan plateau used in Chinese medicine, traditional Mongolian medicine, Tibetan medicine, used for lung disease, lung cancer, heart disease, cardiovascular, diabetes, and to help repair from burn to the skin, broken bone. So you see the spread. So I'm thinking maybe the effect is stem cells. So I traveled there, met with farmers. We derived an extract from sea buckthorn berry. We tested it, and we found a very significant increase in the number of circulating stem cells. The biggest response that we've had right now is from one specific species of aloe from Madagascar. They have about 65 species of aloe. There's only one that they have used for centuries to make a remedy called vahona that is used for old age. So it's coming from a species of aloe called Aloe macroclada. So we developed with a colleague the whole system of harvesting, manufacturing. So now we are able to produce this Aloe macroclada from Madagascar, and that one gives us an increase of about 80% in the number of circulating stem cells. So I've developed a product where I blend all of these together. So you take 2 capsules and you put roughly on average about 8 to 10 million new stem cells in circulation within 2-3 hours.
Wow. And so these plants, they stimulate your body's own endogenous process. So it's not like you're ingesting stem cells, but inside the body, they're triggering the production of stem cells.
Correct. I guess the easiest way to think of it is, if I tell you what can you take for your immune system, there's tons of polyphenols, goji berries, yes, echinacea, medicinal mushroom. They're all known for the immune system. You will go and take these if you need to stimulate your immune system. We just found plants that work by stimulating the release of stem cells. And it's a novel observation. It's a novel knowledge. But the reason why we studied those plants is because we have centuries of views and documentation for them to bring all kinds of benefits. So the effect has been there for thousands of years. We just now documented scientifically, so it allows us to kind of narrow more specifically on developing blends that will specifically support stem cell release from the bone marrow. But it's something that we have done, obviously, since we are humans.
Yeah. And when you take...
Or mammalians, I should say.
Yeah. And when you take this sort of plant-based medicine, it's stimulating kind of, in a sense, systemically the production. So... And those stem cells are probably going to go, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're probably going to go to the areas where there's the most damage, where there's the most need. So, for example, if somebody has maybe a knee injury or osteoarthritis in their knee, or potentially a fatty liver, or something along those lines, my hypothesis would be that those stem cells, as they're being triggered and they're mobilizing in the body, they're going to go to the area where there's the greatest need for healing. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. In my early days of researching this blue-green algae, AFA, I remember the consumers were talking about how this product was doing to your body what your body needs. And as a young scientist, it's a statement that was just annoying the heck out of me. Because from a scientific standpoint, it's fruitcake, it's fairy dust, it will do to your body what your body needs. I really dislike that kind of statement. And I look back at it 25 years later, and I'm thinking, if there was a way of summarizing now all the science that we know about it, it would be to say it will do to your body what your body needs. Because if your body
Yeah.
has a problem, that area signals for
Right.
repair. That's how your body is designed. Wherever you have inflammation, part of the inflammatory signal is signals to attract stem cells. When stem cells migrate in that area, you cannot repair and have inflammation at the same time. So the first thing that stem cells will do is to suppress the inflammation and start the repair process. So of course, stem cells will be attracted wherever there is an inflammation signal, which is wherever there is tissue damage to be repaired. So yes, your stem cells will go exactly where they need to be, and they will do for your body what your body needs. So it was fruitcake, but years later, it was actually fairly accurate into what it does.